Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all. It's time to talk about how the day went. So, based on what I remember, I woke up at around like 10:30. Actually, I was woken up a little bit earlier. My mom needed me to move my car out of the way so she could drive off to church along with her family friend, and then I parked back up to the uh, driveway and I went back inside and I fell asleep again all the way up until around 11 o'clock. Yeah, it was 11. And when I got up, I decided to get some water um, in the from the fridge, our water dispenser. And from what I remember after that, I think, yeah, my sister um, came out and I greeted her. And yeah, we said hello. But then she went off back to room. I decided to find something to eat. But what did I eat? Huh. What did I have for breakfast this morning? Man, I know it wasn't oatmeal. Um, did it have anything to do with bread? I don't think so. Man, did I eat in the morning? Oh, yes, I did eat in the morning. Now I remember. I had honey bunches of oats, the almond ones, with some blueberry um, granola clusters and some almond milk. That was very good. I really enjoyed that. And a cup of coffee. And I was eating that, drinking the coffee, and I was watching um, something on my phone. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Uh, Man, I'm drawing a complete blank right now. Hmm. Had something. Gosh, I don't know. Escaping my memory. Now I remember what it was. Okay, so here's what I watched. This short film that was recommended to me on YouTube. Um, and this was really interesting. One second. Okay, good. Just checking to see if it's recording. This was really interesting because I'm forgetting the exact name of it, but the basic idea of the story is that it's about a guy who pays a visit to the doctor and he finds out that he's actually only got a short period to live because he has a rare genetic disease or disorder where he actually begins growing backwards. So, instead of and at a rapid pace to the point where eventually he reverts back to a baby and then he dies. He basically becomes dust. So it's a really surreal film, really odd. Um, and throughout it, he basically is like trying to figure out what he can do. He goes to like a support group with people who have the very same rare genetic disorder he has. And it's like a really short film. It's like 7 minutes long. And basically, like the guy who brings them together is trying to figure out like what's going on. And every time they revert back to a younger age, they fall on the floor and they start foaming at the mouth and convulsing on the floor until eventually like they turn back into younger version of themselves. Like there was an old man who had the disease, and when he fell back, he returned back to being like a guy in his like mid 50s or early or late 40s. So yeah, and apparently the guy who is coordinating these people in this meeting believes that the reason why they have this issue is because of a unfulfilled need or something that affected them when they were babies. And so he believes getting footage of their birth will help solve the problem for some reason. So he asks each of the patients to send him a video of their birth. And so they do that. Um, and then they try watching the video with him, but then at that point they've become babies. Um, and they end up never finding the reason why or any traumatic or unknown experience for why their bodies are suddenly doing this. And then suddenly the short just ends where they just turn it to where the guy, the main character we start at the beginning of the story, turns into dust, and he gets swept away, presumably thrown away. I don't know. I feel like you'd probably want to treat a living human body with a bit more respect and put them in like an urn at least. Maybe they do put them in an urn. They don't show what they do with the dust, but yeah. Anyways, it was a really weird film. The pensive music that constantly made you feel on edge and unsure the whole time definitely added an air of mysteriousness and uncomfortableness to the story that made you just like, what's going on? This is making me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. The interesting thing about it were the comments. Oh, and also the film was shot apparently with 16 millimeter film stock, which is good because that means that it has a really, it looks more, I don't know, film just has a more real look to it, if that makes sense. I'm not exactly sure if that makes sense, but I feel like, you know, light, like light captured on film just looks more natural than, you know, digital footage because you could tell it's digital. And plus, like, you know, film has infinite resolution where it can be scanned all the way up to like 12K and there'll still be new details revealed about the original film print that couldn't have been revealed from the like, you know, before. So it's a great way to preserve your film of its highest quality. But anywho, moving on to the comments, the people talking in the comments were very they were all coming up with their own interpretations of what they believe the story meant, or they simply just said, this made me feel a certain way. I haven't felt a long time from any media I've consumed in a long time. And one of the most interesting things that I remember was that one of the comments stated that they believe, in their opinion, that the film is about how we desperately try to look to the past and cling to the past because we remember good memories from the past, and we try to make that our identity in the now because we're like, ooh, things were so much better back then. So if we just repeat what we did back then surely things will be good now, right? And the problem with that logic is that life's always dynamically changing, and you know what worked back then wouldn't necessarily work now. And so the only proper way is to consistently adapt and change as life goes on. And if you don't, then you end up being left behind. And as the comment said, you end up turning to dust because you're not dynamically changing with the time. Instead, you're staying with the old ways, which ultimately are no longer relevant anymore because that was you from the past and you're you now. I thought that was a pretty interesting interpretation of the film, and I thought it was, and it even got a comment from the filmmaker who said, I really enjoy when people share their interpretations of my work, whether, you know, so yeah, but it's basically what he said. And I like that. Like, I love it when a filmmaker doesn't explicitly say like you're right or you're wrong, and they simply just make something and they let whatever the audience says be a reflection of the film. I think that's a much more beautiful way of getting a consensus of a movie, because it shows the diversity of experience and opinion and feelings that a work of art can have on someone when they when they take a look at it and allow it to wash over them. And I think that's awesome. Honestly, I just think that's really good. Hold on, let me see if it's still recording. Yes, it is. Okay. I just keep on doing that because, like, last time, like, my phone stopped recording without my knowledge, and I was, like, talking for a little bit before it decided to record again. And so I'm just making sure, just so I'm like, okay, am I saying this? And, like, it's not going to capture what not, you know. But, anyways, yeah, so that was a really cool way to start the morning. This weird experimental film captured on 16 millimeter of a unique concept that really opened people's ideas or their emotions and made them very vulnerable in a good way of what they believe they experience. What I experienced, I just I personally thought was really interesting, but also really unnerving and really weird and uncomfortable, but in a good way. That's my opinion of it. I did like the interpretation of that commenter, though. I thought that was really insightful. But yeah, after watching that, our family friend came through. We greeted her, and then at that point in time, I remember I was realizing that my time to go to work was coming up. And today for work was unique in the fact that for the past like 3 or 4 weeks, I've had nothing but 3 to 11 shifts for like 3 to 4 weeks. Um, Today was my first shift that wasn't closing in a long time. And it might be the last, or it might be a while before that happens again, because my next schedule that was posted um, the other day shows nothing but 3 to 11s. So, I guess I'm just going to savor this 1 to 9 as much as I can, because, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be seeing that kind of shift in the near future for sure. But moving along, I decided to get dressed and ready for work. I put on my work clothes, I wet my hair, I combed it. As I was doing this, I was listening to the Real Life Fake Wizard, a YouTube channel, talk about a video game called Crimson Desert, which he stated like he didn't like because he thought that the controls were really clunky and uncomfortable. It just didn't really click with him. And he believed that the game wasn't finished, and he just found the fact that they shipped a product that is unfinished at a full $70 price tag to be unacceptable. And he found it quite disappointing. And he recommended, if you are interested in this, just give it like probably 3 to 6 months until the game's all patched up and being offered at a discount. It's kind of sad these days when like a game releases and everyone recommends who has played it to pretty much wait until it's actually finished and lower in price to play it. I mean, let's be real. Video games take forever to complete. People have insane backlogs. Probably take them forever before they eventually get to a game that would once again increase the time it would take to get through their backlog. So, yeah, I mean, although it is one of the most artistically impressive and cool looking games that I've ever seen. Apparently, from what I've heard, the story isn't great. But honestly, even though the story, from what I've heard from like journalists, people who played it, isn't the best, I feel like the game's art direction kind of makes up for that. Like the art direction in the game is so cool that, and the visual fidelity is so high that you kind of forget about that because you're just so enchanted by the visual splendor that the game has to offer. I think that's pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, after listening to that, getting dressed, I got in my car. I drove off to work. I said goodbye to my sister, told her that I love her. And when I eventually got back to work, I punched in and checked the schedule. Um, I greeted all my coworkers, and I saw what I had on the agenda. Since it wasn't a 3 to 11, I didn't have sweeps all day, which was a nice change of pace. I like it when I have a more diversified schedule. It definitely feels better in terms of just having more variety in the day, I suppose. Um, and for the first hour, spent bagging went by very well. Second hour was a lot, and then the next 2 hours was also front end bagging. I will say though, Sundays are our busiest days, and it was just constant work after constant work, which I don't mind. In fact, I champion because it keeps you busy, keeps you locked into the job, and you feel like you're like, oh, I'm gotta do this and do my best at it. I will say though that with the limited staff, and we are expected to take our breaks like every 2 hours, but then when I'm coming in from my lot and I'm need to take my break, there's just an influx of customers and there's very few people to help bag, and I just feel like I need to help out. So I do until everything's clear, and then I ask for my break. But I should have asked CSR instead of Checker, but the Checker said yes instead of you should ask the CSR. But the Checker been there a while and appeared to be an authority figure and acted as an authority figure by saying yes. I was like, oh, okay, sure. So I took my break. When I came back, I was told ask the CSR by one of the CSR, and also take your break exactly on the 2 hour dot. So yeah, definitely gonna do that next time. Yeah, so hey, what you gonna do? Anywho, yeah, for my first break, I pretty much spent it doing some Wim Hof breath work, which felt very nice. And when I went back downstairs, got the talking to, and then continued bagging until I left home for lunch. When I arrived home, I didn't really know what to eat, so I just said, I'll just have oatmeal with brown sugar and milk with a little bit of half and half spritzed in, and mix that together with a cup of coffee. And I had that. And yeah, I ate that. And I think as I was eating that, I was watching something while eating it. But what I watched, I don't remember. I think wow, what did I watch? Well, I don't remember, so I'm just gonna move on. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention this. After watching that weird video in the morning, I did talk with my sister, and I mentioned that I did have a dream last night. I don't remember many details about it. All I remember is that me and my mom and two of my sisters, my middle and my youngest sister, were having a meal at a stone, seat with underneath three a statued angels, it was like a dinner area underground, and right above the ground was like a hole with three statue angels, like raising like a wand above. Um, and then I went to see up through the hole, and what I saw was like a wide grassy field with like a river and a tree and like a little bench. It looked nice from what I remember. That was pretty cool. And then I remember I was at a grocery store that wasn't the grocery store I work in, where I greeted a customer, and for whatever reason I grabbed some salt, I poured it on my hand, and I said salt, and I threw salt up, and then they decided to grab their own salt, pour it in their hand, say salt, and throw it up too. So I was like, what? And I don't mean throw up like, bleh, but I mean like throw the salt in the air. So yeah, weird. Not exactly sure what that meant, but it's interesting, I suppose. That's about as much as I can remember from my dream last night. But anywho, yeah, jumping ahead. Yeah, after I was done eating, I said goodbye to. Oh yeah, and I showed my sister and my mom this what I found to be a funny rap someone made with it was like a comedy skit video where they were basically making fun of the fact that Donald Trump keeps on saying, "I'm going to make tariffs." And I'm like, no, never mind. I'm not going to have tariffs, but maybe I will. And it's basically like, someone did a little rap where they had a guy who was like watching the stock market on his phone. It was like, oh my gosh, the stocks are dropping. And then like the guy, Trump, who's pretending to be Trump on the TV says, actually, I changed my mind. The stocks are we're not doing tariffs. And he's like, oh my gosh, stocks are climbing up. And he says, we're doing it. No, and they drop down. And we're not doing it. It climbs up. It's like, oh yes, and he does that over and over again. And yeah, it's hilarious. Let me see if I can do my best to like sing it. Like, all right, here we go. These countries have been ripping us off. China, tariff. Mexico, tariff. India, tariff. Canada, tariff. And then the guy's like, oh my goodness, the stock market, it's dropping. And then he's like, actually, I changed my mind. We're not doing tariffs. China, no tariff. Mexico, no tariff. Canada, no tariff. And then the guy's like, oh my gosh, it's climbing back up. And then the guy's like, actually, I changed my mind again. Tariff, no tariff. Tariff, no tariff. Tariff. And he's like, oh, yes, no, yes. And then he's like, tariff, no tariff. Tariff, no tariff. Tariff, no tariff. China. And yeah, it was ridiculous, but it was funny. It got a laugh out of me. My sister was disgusted by it, though. She thinks that anything having to do with parroting Trump, even if it's clearly making fun of his poor financial decision making, is she finds unappealing just because it's Trump and she doesn't like him. I mean, I get it, but sometimes you gotta just have a laugh at something, like even if like you don't like it, like otherwise, I don't know. At that point, are you gonna get offended at everything? You gotta have realized, like, sure, not the greatest person in the world, but we can at least have a laugh about this. We don't have to take everything consistently like, oh, this is an outrage. I'm mad all the time. Like, don't let like a person's ill decisions rob you of your like ability to have a sense of humor. Is what I'm saying, I guess. But anywho, moving along. What was I gonna talk? Oh yeah, after I showed that, my mom thought it was funny, and my sister thought it was annoying because it's Trump. I drove off back to work, where when I got there, I pretty much it was first hour was bagging, very nice and friendly to customers. Did my best. But I did learn an important lesson, even though I did have an 8-hour shift today, much like how I had an 8-hour shift for my previous 3 to 11s. Apparently, they gave me an hour lunch, and I actually punched out. back in after a half hour because I had been trained. I was trained to expect, oh, if you have 8 hours, then you only have hour lunch. But apparently, that wasn't the case today. I had a full hour lunch. So apparently, that was scheduled. I needed to. Yeah, I just I should never assume. You know what they say about assuming makes a donkey out of you and me. So from now on, I'm going to watch that schedule like a hawk, really make sure if it's a half hour or a full hour lunch, and then do that accordingly. Because I did get a stern talking to by one of the managers telling me to never do that again because it is not good. The company thinks you're being unfair because you're like getting extra work that they didn't authorize. So, but it wasn't my intention to do that. I, because it was an 8 hours, I had believed it was 30-minute lunch, and it wasn't. And it's my bad for not scrutinizing the schedule and realizing that. And I will learn from my past mistake, and I will do better by never repeating that again next time. So yeah, after getting that stern talking to, I went back to doing my due diligence to bag for the first hour, do sweeps for the second hour. Oh wait, no, bag for the first 2 hours, and then do sweeps for the third hour. Wait, no, I had that. No, bag for the first hour, sweeps for the third hour, or second hour, sorry, and then lot for the third hour. Because it's an 8 hour shift and you only have 3 hours after you return from lunch, or in my case, like 3 hours and 20 minutes. So yeah, because I arrived like around 8 minutes after 5:30. So yeah. But anywho, I did everything with a good attitude. And got it done. Punched my sweeps on time. Was very friendly and accommodating to the customers. I actually helped out a guy on when I was doing samples earlier in the morning. I forgot to mention that I did samples where I was giving out Danishes to customers if they were interested, little Danish samples. There was a guy who needed some help. He was doing like a delivery and he didn't know where to find certain products, so I guided him through the store and I helped him find what he needed so that way he could get to his location in a timely manner. So that felt good. I really appreciate helping others in their times of need. So pretty awesome. Yeah, and my last hour was carts. I just brought carts into the corral. Then I punched out for the day. I said goodbye to one of the checkers, the checker I asked for the break, and we had a little like humorous conversation about how I'll be sure not to ask you for breaks next time, and I'll be sure to make sure if my lunch is an hour or not next time too. So yeah, said goodbye to one of the GMs and one of the co-managers. I drove off home. When I arrived home, I had a bit of a headache going, so I took 2 aspirins for eventually deciding to try to create a good schedule by taking my notebook out and trying to create like a good time block. I'm actually way behind on this. Like I should have recorded this vlog from 10:45 to 11:05, but I'm currently doing this at 12:37, and the big reason why was because our family watched Fallout, a new episode of Fallout. Before we did though, when I made that list, I went out. My mom was watching a series where a guy travels the world, talks with different people. Like he went to, Alaska, talking about how they have a fracking business there, but the problem is that like they don't have the infrastructure for tourism, so they can't have people financially support their land because no one wants to go to a frozen tundra. People want to go to a nice sunny location where their family will enjoy it. So yeah, then he went and saw the most Muslim populated area in the United States, in like Michigan. It was really cool. Like he met with a lot of the locals. They were very friendly. They seemed to enjoy his company, and it was a really awesome experience, I would say. Looked to be. They had this thing where like they didn't eat for a whole day, and when they broke their fast, they had a delicious dinner around the table, and that looked cool. And yeah, uh, after that, our family friend came out. We decided to watch a new episode of the show Fallout. This one was interesting. The guy who was in the armor uh, told the truth to his squire, telling him that, yo, I'm not really the guy I say I was. I'm actually like the original squire, and the guy who was in this died. And the guy, of course, like after he, brands him with the, tea and whatnot, because like apparently that's a sign of honor if you get branded by one of the, you know, metal dudes. Once he finds out, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was branded by a traitor. I'm gonna tell on you." And he's like, "No, don't tell me. I'm gonna have to take you out." And he tried to crush his leg, but before he could take him out, guy turned off his armor, so he was pretty much locked in his armor. He couldn't get out of it. Um, and so the guy left, presumably with the head, presumably to return it back to the Brotherhood of Steel and report the guy, or probably just leave him to die, and assuming he was going to die, or probably report him, and maybe they'd send like the Brotherhood to see, like, pick up the suit, and then, maybe if he wasn't dead by then, or probably be dead by then. But lucky for him, next morning, our main character, the lady, comes by, um, who sees him and decides to help him out. She doesn't know to trust him though, but she decides to get him out of the suit. And she's having trust issues in this world because a lot of the people in the Fallout landscape have proven to be untrustworthy. Um, but the guy says that she's clearly dying of radiation sickness, but he has Radcon in his suit that he can use to help with the radiation poisoning or get rid of it or whatnot. And so she decides to help out, and they end up having this little mutual help each other thing. And then they have an agreement where she realizes he's supposedly part of the Brotherhood of Steel, even though the guy's clearly proven liar. Because sure, technically he was, but he was just a squire. But then he ended up letting the guy die and then stealing the armor, and ultimately this is leading to a series of events that could potentially lead to him being taken out by the Brotherhood of Steel. But he says he's part of the Brotherhood of Steel, and he's basically like saying, "Yo, if she has this deal where, okay, I get the head back to the Brotherhood of Steel, then you can convince them to send like a group of like their men over to a base where they can take out the people are holding my dad hostage, so I can take my dad back to my vault, and then we can act like none of this ever happened." And so he decides to make the deal, even though clearly he's in hot water and it's probably things aren't going to go well for him. But then they leave the armor behind because the armor's core was shut down by the guy, the squire, who believed he was the guy who said he was. Well, he wasn't. And yeah, they go off on their journey. And during their journey, we go back to the vault where there's a mystery slowly revealing itself, where Vault 31, I believe, or 32, it was one of those. They vote in new leadership with the lady down in the vault area, and she decides to make it a mission to spread their population from Vault 33 all the way to Vault 32. And the weird thing is, when she announces this and takes them to the land, um, the two guys who originally saw the location in a bad shape, but also with a bunch of dead cadavers everywhere that looked like they were killing each other, ultimately wiped out. Like, none of them are, there's no sign that they were there to begin with, which is really weird, and definitely makes you wonder what is going on here. What is the secret motive of this lady? Clearly there's something going on, because like she's clearly hiding something. She's not being upfront and truthful. Is she part of like some shadow organization that's really like enjoying like tricking these vault dwellers into thinking that they're in a safe, secure environment, and really like they're all just being played like pawns? Like, I don't know, it seems that way. But yeah, we're gonna see where that side of the story goes. It's gonna be interesting. Eventually, we cut back to the lady and the dude who was in the armor, who's now out of the armor, and they come across two wastelanders. They don't know whether to trust them or not, but the lady decides, hey, maybe if we have our hands up in the air, we walk slowly, maybe they'll see we don't have weapons, and we see they don't have weapons, we can just continue about our way across the land. Turns out those people clearly were lying, as most people who apparently are, wasteland dwellers seem to be completely untrustworthy and are all in it for themselves. They notice the lady's pit boy and her gun, and they're like, oh my goodness, well, not only could she take us out, but she's also got some technology that we think looks really valuable that could probably make us some money. Also, they looked like they were probably like, cannibals, so they could also take them as food, which, scary thought. So they decide, yeah, they were liars. They had weapons. They were going to take her out, but then luckily the guy who was a trained soldier grabs the lady's gun, takes those two people out, and then Buddy's injured with his arm, with a scrape of a bullet. And then they continue their way until eventually, like, the guy, he's like, oh my gosh, my injury was actually a lot more serious than I thought it was. And the lady was like, yeah, well, the lady believes it's more serious. So they try to find a hospital area. Eventually, they do find a hospital area, and only for it to be revealed that it's actually a trapdoor that leads into one of the many vaults in the Fallout universe. So when they're there, that's pretty much an indication that, oh, wow, okay, so this is probably where we're going to get patched up so we can continue our adventure. And that's where the story ends. We didn't get any updates on the ghoul guy, the the one without the nose, who's like the cowboy. So not sure where his story's headed. But yeah, for everyone else, things are headed in a really interesting direction. Can't wait to see where the story goes. Really looking forward to it. It's like new twists and turns and reveals happen as the series progresses. It's really exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so after watching that, we all went our separate ways. I used the restroom. After I was done, I took my vitamins. As I was taking my vitamins, I was drinking the water. I noticed there was something in there that wasn't there. It felt like a little bit of like, I want to say like a worm or like maybe a pill. I don't know, but it was enough to have me spit water out. And I had to wipe like the kitchen floor and then spray and wipe it again, because that's gross. So yeah, I dumped all the water out of the cup and immediately like rinsed it twice before filling it with water and drinking that. And then I brushed my teeth. I took some mouthwash, and then I decided to record this update video. And that's pretty much the day. Overall, it was a good day. Some lessons learned, and accountability is always good. It's like you always say, if you don't have accountability, how are you expected to improve? You're just going to stay the same forever. So you need someone to come there, be encouraging, ask you where you're at in life, where you want to be, see if you're meeting those targets, those goals, and staying on the straight and narrow, which is the most important thing. So yeah, that's going to do it for now. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody, and have a great night. Goodbye.